I actually need to bring up the PowerPoint too. That would be helpful. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate you working with us through all of our technology challenges, especially given the weather. Today we're going to be talking about our new about the third and fourth phases, service delivery and renewal of volunteer systems. You probably remember, before we get started, I wanted to make sure that you remembered a few housekeeping tips. The biggest thing is that we are, cancel. Sorry. The biggest thing is that we are completely operating over the internet. So if you are on the phone, you might as well just hang up. We could not set up the phone line. There was too many issues with echoes that we think is related to the weather. But no need to keep the phone line open. We do have everyone muted. And if you have a question or a comment, please write that to Jeanette or to Kathy, who will be monitoring the log. The other thing to be aware of is there's several sections in this PowerPoint, and within those, or at the end of each of those sections, I'm going to stop and check in with Jeanette and Kathy and see if there are any questions, and we'll answer the questions about that section. So if you're hearing something you have a question about, type it in right then, because within 3 or 4 slides, we'll be stopping to discuss it. So we're going to, and everyone is on mute, just so you know. So just a reminder about why we're doing this, and we're really doing this. I'm really reiterating this again because I want this to become very second nature to you. So as you're talking about this with your volunteers, you're keeping in mind this is exactly what we are trying to accomplish. We want to improve customer experience and loyalty. We want to decrease volunteer time and effort, increase new and retained members, and we want to increase business efficiency for our volunteers and for you. So this slide should also look super familiar to you. We've already talked already. We had a presentation on lead generation, and remember, lead generation are activities that move people from awareness to consideration of Girl Scouts, and it really includes all our membership recruitment processes that we typically think of, parent meetings, all of those kinds of things, flyers. It also includes, this year it will also include marketing, the marketing department, and some at-large media-based campaigns. And those campaigns are designed to drive interest or create interest and drive people to the website. It also includes our new inside sales team that Rhonda talked about in the last webinar. The second phase, conversion, is where the interested volunteers, considering volunteers and members actually move from consideration to membership. And that the sort of top responsibility there is the inside sales team. They're watching them come through, but also recruiters, membership recruiters have a strong role still in organizing troops at troop meetings, and they have 5 days, or at parent meetings, and they have 5 days after those parent meetings to really follow up with those adults and girls and try to get them organized and converted into members. And after that, inside sales takes over and guides them through the process. Today, we're going to be talking about service delivery and renewal. And service delivery is, the second phase was, first and second phases were inside sales and recruitment. and marketing to some extent. The third phase, service delivery, is when it really moves to community engagement. And community engagement are the lead people on this, in this phase. Also involved in this phase are program and volunteer development. But the lead department is community engagement. And the same is true for Renewal, and that makes sense since Renewal is really where the volunteer and girl is retained. And one other point I want to make that is a point that's been made every time, and that is all of these phases, we talk about the technology, we talk about Salesforce, we talk about Volunteer Toolkit, the new website, we talk about all of that, and those are, it's an important factor, important for us to understand, but the real change is the change in our business processes. And that's what we're asking you to try to get an understanding of, is what are the new business processes and how are they being used. So, service delivery. Service delivery has three components that we'll be talking about today. That's girl and volunteer planning and preparation, program implementation, and then the services and support we provide. But the important thing about service delivery is this is really where the rubber meets the road. This is what Girl Scouting is here to do, the things that occur in a service delivery phase. And as I said, the three components are accessible planning and preparation. We're trying to make sure that volunteers have good access to it and are well prepared. We want to make sure that girls' experience is high quality and volunteers are prepared to give a high quality experience. And we want to make sure that all of our services and support are streamlined and valuable to volunteers and girls. So when we start talking about those phases, we're talking about some specific pieces, and this chart starts to talk through some of the tasks that will happen in the planning and preparation phase or portion of service delivery. And truthfully, you know what happens in service delivery. When we bring new volunteers in, we return existing volunteers. What this chart does is it helps us say, how is it that Salesforce, the volunteer toolkit, and the staff and service unit volunteers work together to get to really provide the best support for volunteers and girls. So, for instance, every new volunteer that comes in starts out with a personal phone call from the community engagement manager. They'll be getting an introductory email within 24 hours. We want to make sure we are deliberately introducing program and safety resources. And you can see that's a perfect example of something that is being introduced by staff or the service units. Could be start by the recruiter, which we have, and the next one is connecting with service unit volunteers by the recruiter, or it could be with their mentor, and then Salesforce is going to be delivering them emails, and we'll talk more about the automated emails later in the presentation, but also the volunteer toolkit will give them ready access throughout the year to program and safety resources. In addition, so the other piece I want you to notice here is that service delivery is going to be focusing on the best, and community engagement will be focusing on providing the best planning and preparation, program delivery, and services and support for leaders and volunteers. But also, we want to make sure we're really deliberately engaging parents. We know those parents we want them to be involved in the troop, to support the troop structure itself. We want them also to value their daughter's experience, and we also want them to be open when we go back to them and ask them to be a volunteer. So during program implementation, you can see, again, there's a role for staff, and you might notice here that staff and the service unit are actually involved in every piece of this. So there is always a role for staff. There is also a role for the volunteer toolkit, but neither of those stands alone. They have to operate together. So our staff are going to have to really make sure they have a good understanding about where troops are. And rather than focusing where they have been, I think to some extent in the previous years, just by the way we've been set up on things like making sure that troop leaders have their training, making phone calls to say, do you have the right number, or do you have, I see you haven't taken your junior training yet. I see that you, it doesn't say that you've renewed your membership yet. All of those things now are either taken care of by the system, or instead of having that phone call and saying, I see you haven't had your junior training, we're really going to be asking staff to make the phone call and say, tell me how your year's going. How can I offer more support? What else do you need to offer girls the best program experience? So we're changing our focus from policing to support. And that leads us to our last slide in this section, and that is, or in this, of these 3 levels, and that is the kinds of services and support we want to offer. And again, I want to make the point that you see that every one of these columns has a role. Staff are involved in every piece of the process. Salesforce is useful in providing some of that support, and the volunteer toolkit is also instrumental. And it's important for the staff to have kind of that overview so that they're making sure that volunteers are getting the most out of the experience. Because there were so many questions in that came up at the June 13th meeting about volunteer training, and because this is a pretty big step that we're making, I wanted to address this component really specifically. So the questions that come up are things like, oh, if there's no volunteer training, how will volunteers be prepared? And so I guess I want to make sure it is clear there is volunteer training. We will still be encouraging volunteers to get trained. We will be working to try to connect them with trainings. We might be sending them links to the trainings by email. We want them to be prepared, but we are just not going to spend our time policing their training. And we also want to provide them other kinds of support, so that we're not thinking if they get a 3-hour training in the beginning of 1 year that that's going to prepare them to be a troop leader for the 2 years of that age level. We want to find ways to continually improve their learning and their understanding of their role as a troop leader. And that's the shift in focus. So Girl Scout fundamentals and leadership essentials still exists and will still be recommended as training, the recommended trainings for all leaders and assistant leaders, and we will still be encouraging volunteers to take them. New leaders still receive strong support. There's the new leader packet, including the Troop Startup Guide. There will be initial mentoring from the recruiter and a handoff to the service unit mentor. And we hope that with community engagement, freeing up some of their time from the kind of paperwork, bureaucracy pieces, that they'll have more of an opportunity to make sure that service units really are ready to provide mentoring support. And that's where their focus will be, things that really pay off in the quality of the program experience for girls. We also are looking, we are also working to identify other training videos that we can post and share with volunteers, and whether they're GSUSA or others that we find locally or that we make locally. So we're looking at strengthening what we offer, not decreasing what we offer. And in addition, once that we are online with the Volunteer Toolkit in November or December, that will also be available to support all K-5 troops who have online access. So, are there any questions? Any questions coming in on the log?
Nope.
Okay, nothing in on the log. I'm going to keep going. So I also wanted to make sure that staff were familiar with the new position codes and the way positions are referenced. And truthfully, this will come up really more in conversion. But because we're having to support volunteers, and it has to do with the way we support volunteers, I'm covering it here. So GSUSA has asked us to look at volunteer positions differently. First of all, I should say we won't be using the Personify positions. Personify is still going to exist for another year or whatever years, who knows, but we will be using Salesforce and as our membership database of record, and this is the way that the positions will be managed. On sort of the broadest level, they're asking us to think about whether or not someone is a direct service volunteer, and that if they are a direct service volunteer, do they work, and meaning, do they work with or have exposure directly with girls? Are they the primary, and that's the, are they used to fulfill a girl-adult ratio, and do they have primary responsibility for the safety and well-being of girls and coordinating the Girl Scout, the delivery of the program? Or are they secondary? And that is, they might be used to fulfill ratio, but they're not the ones really leading the program. Or are they occasional volunteers? And occasional volunteers are people who they might bring cookies or, whatever, snacks occasionally. They might come to share a skill once in a while, but they're not really a regular part of the troop. The other group that they're asking us to look at is the indirect service volunteers. So we have direct service, meaning they work directly with girls, or indirect service. So everyone should fall into one of those two buckets. And under indirect service, are they a primary volunteer, meaning they provide primary support to adult volunteers, to council staff, or to parents, or are they a secondary volunteer, secondary indirect service volunteer? And just to make this a little clearer, I have this chart that shows you kind of how that might fall out with specific positions. So under primary, you can see primary direct includes troop leaders, co-leaders, series advisors, day camp volunteers, and you can see that all of those are required for the troop to start or the group to start. You can't have a unit leader unless you have, or you can't have a unit in day camp unless you have a unit leader. You can't have a troop unless you have a troop leader. So it's what were formerly known as the O1s or O2s if you were related to a troop. But those are going away. And generally, GSUSA is asking us to simplify and not have the million positions, and million might be exaggerating, but I think it might be 50,000 or something like that, that were positions in Personify. They're asking us to really figure out what are the core positions, and then fit those into one of these categories, and that's how we'll figure out the screening they need. That's how we'll figure out the level of training they need, all of that. So hopefully this seems, and you can see obviously all the service team members fall in primary indirect. People who are drivers, secondary direct, drivers for troops, that is. Checking account people, secondary direct. So you can kind of get the idea about where all of these positions fall. I want to say also, this year we are really going to be encouraging parents to be involved, and so we want to get as many people to be primary or secondary positions with the troop as possible. So we will be pushing for every parent to become a volunteer with the troop, and we know that will be helpful to the troop leader in the long run. And if there needs to be some shifting in the long run, then you have people who are familiar with the troop. So just so you know how we're transitioning that, right now directors are working on identifying all of the positions that they're kind of creating a generic job description for each of the positions that will be appointed in the fall or even throughout the year. and they are putting that on a spreadsheet that is going to be used to create the August to November version of the opportunity catalog. That is a listing of every position that we actually would place someone in. But from August to November, that's all going to just be done on a tracking sheet, on a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, and it'll be associated with the troop opportunities that are out there, or series opportunities that are out there, or from November forward, there is going to be a separate adult opportunity catalog. So there will be the girl opportunity catalog that has the troops and series and whatever other types of things that a girl could be recruited into will be out there. And for those, we will also be identifying every adult that is needed, and that adult, using those same generic job descriptions, will be listed in the adult opportunity catalog. So are there questions about that? I saw something, okay, something came across, it must not have gone to you. To be able to go to Jeanette or to Kathy, you have to write, is it at Jeanette or at Kathy at the beginning? I should have said that at the beginning of your message. And I saw something that came through that said, will we be able to tell the difference between the O1 and the O2? And I don't know that we will be able to. I think that part of the idea is, as long as they are saying they are taking responsibility for the troop and they are putting themselves in that direct primary position, then it doesn't matter. They are one of the leaders of the troop. So now we're getting to retention emails, and this is one of the ways that Salesforce helps support troop leaders as we go through the year. Over the course, you may remember when Rhonda was taking you through the application process, there was a series of emails that guided the applicant from one phase to the next, so that you would continue on through the process. Those emails are set. They're, we don't have any option in, and are not able to customize them in any way. Those are set by GSUSA, so everyone in the entire country who's on Salesforce will use those exact same emails. Once we get to the service delivery end of things, we can start to customize it, or we can customize them. And GSUSA has suggested some areas, and those are the areas I'm going to be sharing with you. But I wanted to give you an example here on new members of the kind of things that we can set up as an auto email that I think will be useful to our volunteers. And these, other than where it says "and staff," these actually were all used by the Proof of Concept Council. So we know it works within Salesforce. So in Salesforce, we can set up, they got their welcome letter yesterday. Today, within 24 hours or 24 hours following their volunteer assignment, an email will go to the service unit leadership letting them know that they have a new direct primary volunteer in their area. And we can set that up so it also goes to a designated staff person. We can send something directly to the new direct primary volunteer that connects them to the service unit or tells them what they should expect to come next. And we haven't written these emails, and we do have some samples from GSUSA or from River Valley. But this will be part of what community engagement will be working with business services and probably emails that they should be getting immediately following, and then after a month, and after whatever length of time. So we want to give direct primary volunteers one level of volunteer, but we also, or one level of email, but we also want to, anyone who is place, we want to give them an email just welcoming them to the organization. And I should say that, so we have, you can see the direct secondary, all the other positions listed here under row C. And then row D, we also want to welcome parents and girls. So we're planning on sending parents and girls a welcome email welcoming them to Girl Scouts of Western Ohio and letting them know about what things they can expect as a part of their participation. So here's a sample email that might go out to the service unit. This came from River Valley, letting them know that there's a new leader starting. So you can see it's completely generic, but it also is clear and asks the person in the service unit to reach out to that person and welcome them to the service unit. And here's just a list of some sample emails that we've talked about having, but again, these have not been set, and community engagement will be a part of the discussion in setting which emails do we want to set up and how do we want to time it so that there are strong auto emails that go out without it being kind of, seeming like too much. So some examples might be that we might want a 30-day or a 60-day check-in with new volunteers. And we might even want to ask them a question with a little, response that they could send back to us, letting us know how have they had access to a mentor? Do they feel, are they on track? Are they ready for the cookie sale? Whatever we want to ask them at that point, we can, to kind of gauge where they are. We probably want to send something out before the start of the cookie sale, making sure that everyone is aware of that and is ready for it. We probably want to make sure that all service units are ready with things like year-end celebration events and knowing how to involve parents and girls in that. You can see the kinds of, I tried to choose from different categories, the kinds of emails that we could set up over the course of the year. So that, as I said before, that'll be a discussion with community engagement and some other departments to figure out what the best email would be. Are there any questions about that? I didn't see anything come through, and Kathy and Jeanette are shaking their heads, so we are just whizzing on through here. So next is volunteer appreciation and recognition. And we are doing things differently with volunteer appreciation and recognition. And let me say, one of the things that we're doing differently is we want every volunteer to feel appreciated and recognized. And that's a part of what will be the goal of this area of work in the coming year. So volunteer development and innovation, marketing and community engagement will be working together to come up with a plan that ensures that volunteers feel appreciated and valued throughout the year. And that will include both formal and informal recognition. It'll include some things that are online. It will include some, we're looking at how we can support service unit and circle events, but we really want to make sure that this isn't something for just, our top 100 volunteers, but this really is something that every volunteer, and we know so many volunteers give many, many hours, feels valued. And we also do want to make sure that we're involving parents and girls in that recognition. We also, in that same kind of the way that Salesforce is set up in that fourth phase, it includes recognition and appreciation, includes evaluation, and we are, there is an end of year evaluation, but you also hear, we also heard that there are opportunities for evaluation throughout the year. So, but we know that there will be an email sent that has a link that, and it can be sent to Girl Scout volunteers, it could be sent to parents and caretakers, but asking them about the girls' experience, kind of as we currently do with our program effectiveness, so it could be linking them to that. But we also want to know, is this working? Are some of these changes working? And GSUSA actually has done kind of a baseline online survey with some of our volunteers and with volunteers across the country. So we were one of the councils that participated in that, creating a baseline so we have pre and post results and can find out, hey, are all of these changes we're making, are they making anything better for volunteers? Where are the pain points that still exist? How can we improve them? And also by doing this, one of the things that this helps with, and this is something that AJ has been working with GSUSA on for a number of years, but I think it takes us further in that direction. It helps us compare our data to other councils in the country. So it helps make us have to validate what information we're getting. So renewing. One of the things I wanted to make sure I was telling you about Renewal was that we are now, and you probably heard this, we now have a renewal process, and a part of that renewal process is that volunteers and parents will be sent a link directly that will help them easily renew their membership every year. Volunteers, when they send that, and we actually just looked at the data from early registration, and there was kind of a strong response to, or level of frustration that we're still seeing with eViz. So this is really exciting, I think, and I hope for volunteers and parents in the future. As a part of that, though, we are going to be building into those position descriptions how often do they need to actually go through the application process. And by application process, I really mean the screening process. And if for most volunteers, we're setting it up that it's every 3 years. And if that's the case, in that third year, they will automatically be redirected into that screening process if we've set it up. And so right now, GSUSA is loading into or will be loading into Salesforce our current database. So anyone who has not renewed has not been screened in 3 years or longer, will go the next time, and because we hope most are actually already renewed for this year. So next year when they renewed, they will be automatically directed to the online screening, the online background check. About that renewal, I wanted to make sure that you knew that it's going to be sent to every volunteer, every member, every parent and caretaker of the girl members, and it include a link to enable parents to easily renew their daughters, and so troop leaders can actually easily renew the troop members. So depending on what way they want to do it. We also will be make sure that we have a reminder about some of the year-end tasks, and it will allow leaders to provide information about the future of troops and members. And you'll see, I could have put in, but I did not. We actually have seen some of the wording, and it actually asks leaders to say, is your troop disbanding? How many girls do you think are coming back? Are you coming back? So we hope that we will enter the new year with a lot better information about the troop. The other thing I wanted you to be aware of was that renewing troops actually have a role related to the opportunity catalog. We typically think of that, the opportunity catalog, the girl opportunity catalog, as being about new girls coming in, and it is to some extent, or it is for new girls. And Rhonda touched on this in one of her webinars. Renewing troops this year will also be sent an email introducing them to information about the program benefits of having 12 or more girls in a troop, and encouraging all troops to serve at least 12 girls, and letting them know that we are going to be including available spaces in troops in the Girl Opportunity Catalog. And then we will ask them to tell us how many girls they're projecting for their troop in 2015, and how many additional girls they will accept in their troop. If they don't respond, but they have less than 12 girls, then they won't go on the visible opportunity catalog that when it is visible, once that comes up, but they will be available to inside sales, and inside sales will be following up with them and still trying to request that they take additional girls. Troops that have less than 5 girls, and that includes older girl troops, have to take additional girls to get to at least 5 girls. So the same rules will apply for allowing them to be a troop if they have less than 5 girls. And I know that there are troops around currently that say they'd accept more girls, but they just aren't getting them. But if they have less than 5 girls and they are an older girl troop, they can, so Cadet Senior Ambassador, they can be a troop, but they have to accept additional girls to get to 5, not to 12. So I wanted to also let you know about a couple of new reports that are going to be out there this year. So I have 3 reports. These will be the 3 main reports available in the VSN. These will actually be take the place of other reports that were there last year. The membership master list, which you can see is the first one, that's not a new report. That's exactly what it was last year. It will be, and it will still be available, only the data manager and staff will be authorized to see it. And that has girl and adult information in it. In addition to the membership master list, however, we are adding an adult membership master list, and that will be a comprehensive database of all adult members by service unit. That will also be in the VSN, and all core service team members will be authorized to see that report. So they'll be able to see new members in that. They'll see information about them. They'll have contact information on adults that they can use for official Girl Scout business. And we hope that that helps meet some of the needs that they've identified. In addition, we are going to add a troop status report, getting back to that whole idea of having at least 12 girls. There will be by region in the Volunteer Services Network, there will be a listing of all troops by troop number, and it'll have the number of girls and the number of adults that we show as registered in the troop. And that way troop leaders can look and see how many do we think are registered compared to how many they think are registered. Okay. So Jeanette just sent an email about saying that, didn't you send me something?
Just now? No.
Yeah, well, saying we've had a few people who have asked about the VSN. And we are keeping, because right now there currently is no other place that we can keep information that is for service team members. So maybe not in the maybe in the future there will be something else, but for right now we are keeping the VSN so that we can easily make documents available by service team members. And I see the question came across that how often will the reports be updated? And they will be updated weekly, just like the membership master list is now. Any other questions?
There is a second part to the VSN question about, do we have a plan to get more volunteers on board with the VSN? No, but
we do. We would like to have a small team look at that. So that is still up and coming, and I agree we do need to. And we have worked out several of the bugs that I think were problematic initially. So hopefully it will be simpler. But we want to hear what would be useful in terms of using the VSN, and how do we encourage everyone to get on board, get on. Okay. Kathy is saying that she's having trouble getting questions, so please direct all questions to Jeanette. So that's going to say @Jeanette before your question. Okay, customer care, where we're now getting down towards the end, and this is one of the exciting, just like inside sales was an exciting development of this new of the new business processes that are being put in place. Customer care, I think, is the other really exciting new development. So customer care relies on the idea that every communication that occurs with volunteers in Salesforce is recorded and is tracked for a couple of major things. One is to make sure that we are following up in a timely way with every volunteer, that we have a good record of what volunteers have had questions about, that we see trends, and that we are using consistent answers with every volunteer. And so every question, inquiry, or issue that gets that we are contacted about in customer care is considered a case. And cases can be communicated by anyone. So you could be at a service unit meeting and get a question that would go in the log as a case. But when our council office is contacted, either by email or by phone, they will be directed, unless they have someone they're already contacting and they're using your direct line, they will be directed to customer care. Customer care will be the front line for both emails and phone calls in answering all questions that come in about Girl Scouting. And this is our exciting, although they look much better than this slide. This is my poor slide performance. But this is our exciting customer care team. And as you can see, they represent all regions, but they are not regionally focused. So when an email or a phone call comes in, it will just go to the first available customer care representative. So it will be a customer care specialist. So if it comes in, no matter what region it's from, and we will have an 800 number, but we don't have a number yet, but we will have an 800 number that will automatically direct the call to one of these people, the first available person. And it's going to be set up as a hunt group so that it finds the available specialist. And that person will be responsible for answering any questions that come in. So how will they know the answer? Well, some of the things they are already amassing questions and answers based on the questions and answers that they're getting every day, like eBiz kinds of questions. However, the second level, their support, so they're tier 1 of customer care. The second tier of customer care are all of these queues that you see on this slide. It is really all of the departments that we have in Girl Scouts of Western Ohio. And if a question comes in that they don't have the answer to, they will be sending it to the first available person that they see, or the available person that they see from one of those queues, to make sure that that person gets a response within 24 hours or as quickly as possible. In addition, they will be, once we're in Salesforce, that will go to that person as a ticket, and that ticket will be automatically tracked in Salesforce. Pre-Salesforce, it'll just be tracked on a spreadsheet. So it goes to that person, and let's say it's about something with what we're doing, the way we're doing flyers in Toledo, in a community in Toledo. And so that, let's say that they haven't given the tier 1 customer care team, they should have given them all of the information about this new thing they're doing, but they haven't. And so the customer care person will send them to recruitment, the first available recruitment person in that area that can answer that question. Track that it went to them. That person is responsible for answering within 24 hours, documenting their response, and when we're in Salesforce, they'll actually document it in Salesforce. And if it's going to become a generic response, or a response that we think we might even need to use multiple times that week, they will get the okay to use, that is, they will send that answer to their director, who will authorize that as, yes, this is our official answer to that question, and send it back to Tier 1. And now Tier 1 has one more case with one more answer. And we hope over time that Tier 1 is actually able to answer 80% of our questions. So this is a representation of that process. The green squares you see on this page all represent answering or customer care. So on the furthest to the left is the simplest possible situation. Tier 1 receives a call, or customer care receives a call or an email. The case is opened by them. They have the answer. They provide the answer. They document it. Case closed. It is our goal that over the course of this year, 80% of our cases will be answered like that. If the Tier 1 does not have the answer, then they move to the box that is kind of over to the right of there, and they forward it to the appropriate available Tier 2 or Tier 3, but let's assume Tier 2 queue. So that was the situation we just talked about, that we assume that 20% of our cases will be new situations that will be going directly to, that will have to go to Tier 2. Tier 2 will respond directly to the customer within 24 hours and create that response. They document their solution. They have it authorized by their director, their department director, and then they send that back to Tier 1. Can you see that circle created? That's the green to the blue and back to the green. There will be some questions that can't be answered by either of those, in either Tier 1 or Tier 2. For instance, if someone calls reporting we just got a call, or we got an email not very long ago from a husband demanding that he have a copy of all of his daughter's records because it was because there's a divorce situation and his wife's not providing the information. That's an example in which customer care will forward it to Tier 3. And Tier 3 can be one of two types of situations. It can either be something that goes to the case management team, and that would be kind of a complex problem-solving situation. So if someone's reporting something about their troop leader and it needs some investigation, that might go to the case management team. If it's a situation that there's a potential legal or PR or ethical issue, or an immediate safety issue, then that is probably going to go directly to the administrative person. So Tier 3 either is case management team, or it's communications, the CEO, the regional director. It's someone who will handle a certain level of response. I hope all of that makes sense. So right now, in preparation, directors are working with their team to identify 10 frequently asked questions that they think customer care will be getting in the fall. And they are submitting the question and the answer and any references that might be useful. So, like you might say, well, this is in the age level handbook, or in I don't know if there is an age level, that's not the right word for it anymore, but it comes straight from safety checkpoints. Whatever it is, they're referencing it. So they're sending that in, and they'll be sending that to Jan and her team so that they are prepared for the fall. And customer care will be tracking those on spreadsheets by topic so that they can easily find the right answer. And then they'll be tracking all of the questions and answers that they get. So we see trends, we see what kinds of issues are coming up, we see what kinds of things we need more answers developed in. For good customer service, they're going to be tracking all of that. After November, that will all be tracked in Salesforce. And that including, as I said, prompts for timely follow-up, because everything will go out as a ticket. And remember, all communication has to be recorded in Salesforce. That's a big part of the point of Salesforce. So there will be no separate databases that contain information that is not tracked in Salesforce. Everything will be tracked in Salesforce. And what's the saying? If it's not in Salesforce, it doesn't exist. So that will be the case once November comes. And this is an example of what a record might look like. So if someone called and said, hey, I was looking at my volunteer toolkit and I thought I'd be able to find information about what I should be doing at cookie booths, you know, where do I find it? And this would be how they might start to track it. You can kind of see the fields on it. And the case owner is always going to be the customer care person. The contact name over here is the volunteer who called. So I didn't want to, I don't have really a lot to add about the website or volunteer toolkit, except we're really looking forward to it. But because this is an important part of the whole volunteer experience, I forgot to ask questions, sorry. I wanted to mention it. So it sounds like there were questions about case management.
Yes, it says, are we to track such questions and customer service while we are in the field and enter it afterwards also?
And obviously there's a little bit of judgment there because, you know, every question you get at every service unit meeting, I don't want you to have to do it. But if it's something significant, something that you think could be something that will be a repeated question that we want to make sure, yes, that we want to make sure is being tracked for the future, those I would definitely enter in. Or something that matters about that person, like a person comes up to you at the end of a service unit meeting and talks about all the problems she's having with her troop, and she's looking for resources about how to work with, you know, behavior management with kids. I would definitely want to put that in, even if you're able to give her resources, because that's likely to be something that we want to follow up on. And that actually does remind me of something else. That customer care is the front line, but actually all of those cases and all of those responses are in Salesforce and will be available to all of the staff that have access to Salesforce. So we think that this actually will be a big help to new staff as well. So if you are out there if you are out there and you don't know the answer, or you get a call, or you are preparing for a meeting and you think, I know they're going to ask me questions about the cookie sale and I don't know what they are, the case management files become a place you can go just to try to brush up or to seek out information on whatever the topic is. Jeanette.
Another question has come in. If they track questions from the field, we can add them to the frequently asked questions for customer care. I guess it's more of a statement.
Yes. Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So those would get submitted as a question and answer, go through the exact same approval process. So the director approves them as being, yes, this is our official answer to that question. And then they become a part of the case management questions and answers. Okay, so back to the volunteer toolkit. I just wanted to kind of remind you about how exciting it is. Will be customized per troop or per age level per troop, so that when a volunteer signs up, she'll be able to access her own troop records. She'll be able to access the resources that go with her troop. They're differentiating between year 1 and year 2 and an age level. So there will be a lot of really good customized resources available to troops. In addition, there will be tools in there to help plan the agenda, to plan preparation for the meeting, including things like shopping lists, kind of like those recipes that say, you hit a button and say, what is it I need to shop for? There's a similar tool in this. There will be access to meeting resources. There will be something that reminds you about what it is that you might want to ask parents about, like a parent permission slip or whatever it might be. In addition, and then something that details out kind of the timing of the meeting. And of course, leaders don't have to go by that. They can modify it, or they can choose to even skip meetings in the way that they're set up in here, but they are just intended really to help leaders plan throughout the year, to offer a support. They also will have something that they can send to parents actually learned at that meeting. Just to, not that it's going to actually give them every word of every communication, but it's just one more thing to help leaders as they're trying to manage all the million things you have to do as a troop leader. And there will be tabs with resources for them to use. So we think that this is going to be a big benefit to troop leaders. In addition, the new web platform we think is going to be very exciting. The functionality is supposed to be kind of the top of the line. And really one of the most exciting things about it is that it's a joint, it will have information from Girl Scouts of Western Ohio, but information also from Girl Scouts of the USA. So all of those things that we try to remember to update when they come up that are Girl Scouts of the USA, we hope that Girl Scouts of the USA actually will be managing that. And we think that that's going to help make this easier for parents who right now often, and for leaders, probably don't go to the Girl Scouts of the USA website, and as a result miss out on a lot of cool things they have. It'll make it easily accessible to them. And we hope that the organization of the new website and the functionality will make it even better with the Western Ohio information. So are there any questions about that, about the opportunity or the website or the toolkit or anything else? Because that is the end of our presentation on service delivery and renewal. Questions? Anything you thought was exciting? Anyone there? I'm going to hope that silence means that you're processing everything, and we will send a link to this presentation so that you're able to watch it on YouTube if you'd like to. Customer care and additional support to volunteers is very exciting. I agree.
And the toolkit.
Yes. Yeah.
Sounds like it. Now it's all coming in.
Okay, good. Yes, case management I think will be exciting. I think this will be great. And go ahead.
There's a question. Where do we add our frequently asked questions?
Okay, I will send you a link right now because we've updated the questions that are out there. And so I will send you a link to the current version of it, and you can just add to the bottom and we will monitor it so that you're able to add additional questions.
We still have blanks out there to fill in. It's not.
Yeah, and there are some that are blank in part because sometimes we don't know the answer. But for the most part, we've gone back and tried to answer questions that are in there. So we will send that out to you. But it's in the L drive under Volunteer Systems 2014. And we will send you a link to it.
Yeah, when I send a link to the YouTube, we can add that link as well.
That sounds perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much for your patience and attention, and I look forward to hearing more from you. Bye.